today from Kid in the Corner in honor of Zachary. And we're so fortunate to have about I believe in bullying and kindness and all. Yes, yes.
Do you want, it's just good there. Do you want me to stand here and you just let me know to advance the slide, or is it easier for you to do it?
I can do it.
Okay,
Excellent.
all right. Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Francine Sumner and I'm with an organization called Kid. And I will just briefly talk to you about Kid in the Corner and sort of what we do in schools to make sure that we're shattering stigma when it comes to mental illness, to bullying and all that kind of stuff, so that we can have these conversations, support kids where they're at, and move on to the next step. So these are my three kids. This is Jacob. They all went through PD. Jacob, Gabrielle, and that's Zachary. We lost Zachary when he was 16 years old, almost 17. He was a sophomore at Horizon High School. He died by suicide, and after we learned a lot about his story, really for us, it was all about the stigma. He suffered for 3 months alone with some issues that had happened at school. No, it was really not that big a deal when he looked back on it, but he was sitting with a bunch of friends who he had since he was in kindergarten, and they would sit together at lunch every single day, and they would joke with each other and tease each other. And one day he just happened to be sort of the butt of the jokes, and it felt different, it just felt weird. And he thought it was his fault. He thought his response to it, but thought the way he was feeling about it was all him. And he took it upon himself, and he really internalized it. For 3 months, nobody had any idea he was feeling like this. His friends didn't go reach out to him, wondering why he wasn't having lunch with them anymore. Maybe they thought he was, maybe they thought he joined a club, or maybe they thought he had, something else going on, or a girlfriend, or he found someplace else to eat, or who knows, or maybe they didn't think about it. I don't know. But they didn't reach out to him. Nobody really reached out to him. Nobody really sought him out to find out why he wasn't having lunch with them anymore. In the media center, all of a sudden, here comes a 10th grader who's never been in here before, now isolating and having lunch every single day by himself. I think anybody in the media center thought enough to ask why or what was going on. We didn't really see much at home. A little bit of elevated, sort of annoying behavior. He was, what the word is, he was quick to snap and, quick to be annoyed and quick to throw tantrums. Who knew what he was doing, right? We had no idea. And the night of his very first attempted suicide was the night before his last final of winter break, when it was just a night in our house where my daughter was getting ready to go on a birthday trip to Israel. Her clothes were all over my bed. My oldest son wanted to know what's for dinner, dog's barking, and Zach comes in and he sprawls on the bed and he's like, I need help studying right now. It's like, wait your turn. I've got other things to do, and I'm helping her. And he got up and he went across the house to his room, and he sent me a text in all caps, really long, saying, don't bother, you don't care about me, nobody cares about me. Nothing you say is going to make me think you care, so don't even bother. And that felt different, right? I mean, I had older teenagers that had angst and anxiety and attitude and all of that, but this was different. And, when we spent time talking that night, after he had his first attempt, he came out hysterically crying, and he was like, why do I care so much about everybody else, but nobody cares about me? So fast forward, we put him on medication. I could not find the right resources for him. We were already 3 months behind the 8 ball because we didn't have any understanding of what was happening, and that was my job to try to find him resources. And so now I was sort of in a hole, and I was reacting, and I was, on a short fuse, and on and on and on and on. And I felt like we were constantly chasing this tail of stigma. In the very end, Zachary was misdiagnosed. He was on a wrong medication, right? We know that antidepressants and bipolar teens can really increase suicidal ideation, and then that's what happens. For us, it was all about stigma. And so Kid in the Corner is here to shatter stigma, and we do it in 3 ways, right? The first way is to educate and spread awareness. It's where we go into schools. From fourth grade on up, we've been in tons of PP schools. I saw somebody walking with a Samoan sky bag. That was the last school we were in. We're in tons and tons of PP schools. And we talk to kids about their mental health. We talk about it from a place of kindness. Kindness to ourselves and kindness to others. And really, it's so easy to come from a place of judgment, come from a place of annoyance, come from a place of misunderstanding. But if we step back and come from a place of kindness, kindness to ourselves first, right? And then kindness to others, kindness and empathy. I really believe that we can change stories. So today we're just here really to talk about stigma and how we combat these behaviors with kindness. So stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. And stigma starts, self-stigma starts because we have stigma in society, right? So we're so quick to put mental health in its own sort of pocket, and not treat it like we're treating physical health, right? I mean, if we have colds, if our kids, let's talk about like this, if our kids have a cold, we don't expect them to, they have a fever, we don't expect them to go to school that way, we don't expect them to go to soccer. Actually, we ask them to stay in bed. Stay in bed, drink a lot of fluids, take some time for yourself, we go in and check on them, we're kind and we're gentle because we can sort of see those symptoms. But we've had colds before, we're gonna have colds again, right? We as parents are nurturing, we care about our kids, we know what our kids need. I know that Zachary liked blue Gatorade, and I know Gabrielle likes orange juice. I'm not giving Gabrielle blue Gatorade, I'm not giving Zachary orange juice. I just know, we just know. They're happy to tell me what they need, what they like, and what they don't like when it comes to their physical health, but not when it comes to mental health. And all our kids, us included, we've all had sad and bad days before, and we're gonna have them again. And so when we start to notice our kids' behaviors, when we start to notice they're a little bit off, when we start to notice that they're a little bit shorter with us, or they're withdrawing a little bit, you know, rather than coming at them and saying, "What is going on with you? Like, what are you doing? How come, you know, blah, 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 blah." Maybe we talk about what's happening. How are you feeling today? What's going on with you? Again, coming from a place of empathy, coming from a place of kindness. So, how do we shatter stigma? By starting the conversations. It's really that simple. It's about talking about how we're feeling, talking about how our kids are feeling, making sure that our kids feel comfortable talking about how they're feeling in the family environment first, right? Creating that stigma-free environment at home. And then teaching them how to have that stigma-free environment in their smaller circles and out and out and out. The way that we do this at Kid in the Corner is it's called the penny approach. So when we go into schools, from fourth grade and up, from fourth grade through sixth grade, we go in for a 3-day program. We sit in a circle, we take them out of their academic environment, we sit in a circle on the floor, away from everything else, and we have a 3-day program, which is called the Penny Pledge. So Zachary was a coin collector, and we found thousands of pennies. And now, Paradise Valley High School, Golden Class actually drills in for us. So over the years, they've drilled all our pennies for us. And we just had our gala on Saturday night, and Mr. Cartler, who is the teacher of the Golden Class, he won our impact volunteer of the year. He's just amazing. So he's just incredible. But anyway, he drills our pennies for us. And when we go in, the penny pledge is an individual call to action, right? One penny alone doesn't mean much, but together, collectively, we can absolutely change behaviors. We can change the future. And so kids at the very youngest level learn why it is so important to reach out to the kid in the corner. Who's the kid in the corner? Somebody who has changed behaviors, somebody who hasn't been in school for a while, somebody who might look like they're struggling, somebody who, you know, didn't get the part in the play they thought they wanted, right? There were so many reasons that people are the kid in the corner. It's really important that we're comfortable reaching out, asking the questions, giving the support, not only to people that we know, but people that we don't know, right? It needs to even go further. I'll tell you, my daughter, a couple months after Zachary died, she was at ASU having a really horrible night. She was out with a friend, When she walked out of that restaurant, she looked down and there was a rock and it said, "You're stronger than you think. You're so beautiful, pass it on." And I ask kids all the time, "What do you think about that rock there?" Doesn't matter if it's what's there. Somebody thought enough, right? To be kind with their words to somebody who they didn't even know. We do that now at kindergarten. We do it in the classrooms. We write beautiful messages on rocks. We put them out in the community. We flood the community with kindness. And then we go back and see if those rocks are still there or who took them. And try to imagine, right, whose day we might have made. Who might have needed that day. So always trying to practice that kindness component. That night, kids go home and they are supposed to reach out to 3 people. And then we come back and we talk about it the next day. And they talk about what it felt like to reach out, what it felt like to be kind, what it felt like to think about people outside of themselves, and what the reactions of those people were. It's amazing. Second day, we talk about taking care of our own mental health, right? We have to know that it's okay to not be okay and the strength to ask for help. Hands down, right? We don't think twice when we have a cold. When our cold turns into bronchitis, we go to the doctor. We don't think twice about it because we know we can't heal ourselves. Same thing with our sad and bad days. And then we go for a self-care plan. And we talk about who our safe and caring people are and who our safe and caring friends are. Who do we need to reach out to on campus if we were to need to? I mean, hopefully we never do, but if we do, who would those people be? What's our self-love language? So for Zach, it was all about animals, 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 animals. And his dad was all about physical activity. And so they would butt heads. When Zach was struggling, his dad would call him every day and say, "Did you go to the gym? You should go to the gym. Sign you up for the gym. If you go to the gym, you'll feel better." Zach was like, "I don't want to go to the gym. Like, I just want to walk dogs." And so having those conversations at home, breaking that stigma and talking about it. What do you do to relieve stress? You know, I like to go to the gym, but Zach, what do you want to do? What would help you relieve stress so that he can think about those things? And we know about those things in the family, right? Having the conversations. We talk about the hotlines and the resources. We talk about social media, about all the things that we can do to keep ourselves safe and healthy. And then the last part is about being that safe and caring person that somebody can approach. And that's where our pennies come in, right? We wear our pennies proudly. We learn the difference between tattling and advocating, right? Tattling is to get somebody in trouble, but advocating is kind, it's to get somebody help. It's always okay to get somebody help. We talk about empathy. What really is empathy? What does empathy really mean? And I'll give you an example of empathy and how it can start stigma, right? So we tell kids the story of, there's this 5-year-old little girl and her mom are on their way to go get the little girl's food. She's crying, she's scared. I don't want to go, don't make me go. I'm so scared. I'm scared of needles. I want to go. And mom says, "It's okay. There's nothing to be scared about. Don't be scared. I'll be right there with you. I'll be holding your hand. And when we're done, we'll go out for ice cream. It'll be great." And is it or isn't it empathetic? Raise your hands if you think it is. Raise your hands if you think it isn't. Why not? Anyone?
You can validate the feeling.
She told her, don't be scared. She was loving, really sweet. But don't be scared. So now, you know, you're 5 and you think your mom knows everything. Everything. So if mom says I shouldn't be scared, don't be scared, I probably shouldn't be scared. But now I am scared. That's how stigma starts, right? You know, we can't tell somebody how to feel. We cannot invalidate people's feelings because then they wind up holding them in. And it builds and it builds and it builds. So we can never tell somebody how to feel. So coming from a place of kindness, coming from a place of empathy. And we practice these conversations. We practice empathy in our circles. And at the very end, we take the penny pledge. So that's what we're doing in schools to make sure that we're talking a lot about kindness and self-care and understanding and empathy. As a matter of fact, we were in a school not too long ago, and there was a kid who was really labeled as a behavior problem. And he was very an issue, and they didn't know what to do with this kid. And we were sitting in our circle, and at the very end of, I think it was the 2nd day, he just broke down crying that his brother had died at the center. He had not disclosed it. Parents were in such a horrible place and were so opposed to counseling that they didn't tell the school either. And he finally came out and said, like, he'd been dealing with this for so long. And the school social worker sat right in front of him, crisscross applesauce, right in his face, holding his hands. Kids came and they were rubbing his back. The teacher had no idea what was really going on. Right? But he was considered, the class issue, that he was the class problem. But nobody was able to get down deep enough to figure out what the heck is going on with this poor kid. He's night and day now. He's doing so well. The family's doing really well. They've got the help they need. It's about coming at things from a different place, right? Rather than meeting the behaviors where they're at, what are causing the behaviors? Any questions on that? Okay, so let's talk about bullying, right? Why do bullies bully? The first thing we have to know is hurt people hurt people. I mean, when I first learned this concept, it took me a little while to really digest it. But, think about it. Hurt people hurt people. So chances are when somebody is being a bully, there's something more happening within themselves that they can't deal with. And so now they're outwardly hurting other people because they're hurting so badly themselves. Low self-esteem, suffer from insecurity, mindset of making others feel bad will make them feel better. Low emotional intelligence, feeling powerless, learned behavior, past experiences. There's so much that goes into the reason why somebody bullies. The first thing we have to do when we see somebody that bullies is say, what do they need? What does the bully need? What's going on in the bully's home? And why are these behaviors surfacing now? I can tell you that a couple of months ago, my son, my oldest son, who's now just 29, he was over, we were watching something, I don't know, we were doing something. And I said, why don't you find something to watch? And he goes, you find it. I go, Jacob, what's up? Put the remotes down, put everything down. I turned towards him, I said, what's going on? Are you okay? And he wasn't. And he said to me afterwards, he said, I sort of had that little outburst because I wanted you to ask me. So rather than saying, hey, don't talk to me like that, like, what are you doing? I was like, well, something's not right. So coming at it from a place of kindness, coming at it from a place of compassion, you could sit down and have that conversation and move forward. So bullying can look like intimidation, right? Threats, insults, intentional exclusion, spreading rumors and lies. Bullying can look like so many different things. But how do we recognize it and what do we do about it? So it's important to know, right, that our words as parents and as caregivers, our words have the power to inspire, motivate, comfort, and heal, but they also have the power to cause harm, pain, damage to ourselves and others. So we have to first, as parents and caregivers, talk to ourselves in a kind way and model the behavior that we want to see. So that our children do the same, right? They're kind first to themselves and they use their words only for kindness. So just talking about the effects on people who are bullied. There's so much. It's really all about projecting onto other people what the bullies are feeling themselves, right? So a lot of them are feeling this, the bullies themselves, a lot of them are feeling this way themselves. And they're trying now to project it onto others, right? Because it's so hard for them to look inwardly and talk kindly to themselves that they cannot do that with others. So what can we do? Kindness, right? It's really all about coming from a place of kindness, coming from a place of empathy. We talked a little bit about empathy, talked about the little girl and the mom. So what can we as parents do? And this is sort of where I wanted to open it up with discussion. We really have to model the behavior that we want to see. We have to really switch our mindset to one of sort of reaction. Like the example that I gave with Jacob, right? When he was like, you find something to watch. We're busy as parents. We've got a lot going on. We're balancing a lot of things. And I know for me, when I'm in the thick of it, and before any of this happened, my first reaction would have been like, hey, don't talk to me like that. What, don't think you can talk to me like that. Like, that is not okay. And I would I would not have talked to him after that, he would not have talked to me after that, and that wouldn't have been. Because it would have for him, made him feel like, yeah, I am not a good person. I am not in a good place, and she doesn't get me either, and I'm gonna go deeper and deeper and deeper, and like we said, hurt people, hurt people. So we really have to model the behavior that we want to see and come from a place of kindness and practice empathy, right? If our kids come to us and say, listen, I am so stressed out, I don't wanna do this, I don't wanna go there, I can't think about it, I can't handle it, I can't this. Rather than saying to them, shouldn't feel like that, don't feel like that's ridiculous to feel like that, just pull yourself together. Let's talk about, why are you feeling like that? What is really going on? And what can we do about it? I'm here if you want to talk about it. I understand that you're struggling. It's really hard to do, especially when we're in the middle of so much in our lives. But it goes such a long way. And to ourselves as well. We need to create a stigma-free environment at home. We need to be able to talk about mental health, talk about our struggles, talk about our mood changes, and talk about what we need to do to make sure that we're handling our life the best way that we can. Do we need to be in therapy? Do we need to be in sports? Do we need to spend an hour, on our phones playing Candy Crush at night? What is it that we need to do so that we can regulate our emotions, regulate our lives, and model that behavior and help our kids to do the same? Practice the penny pledge. Make sure that our kids are reaching out to those that might be struggling, those that might be showing behaviors that are unregulated or that we don't recognize. Make sure that our kids are taking care of their own mental health and that we help them do that, right? We help them understand that it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay for their friends to not be okay. It's absolutely okay to let people feel how they're feeling, but also by setting some boundaries. And foster that stand up, speak up mentality, right? So if you see somebody being treated with less than appropriate behavior, make sure that we're standing up. Make sure that we're reaching out to the bully, right? Are you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? Do you need help with anything? I can see that you're struggling, things like that. And making sure that we're standing up for the person that's bullied as well with the same. Are you okay? Is there anything that I can do for you? Do you want to go talk to somebody with me? Do you want to call one of the hotlines with me? I'm here for you if you need to be. Empathy and kindness. So some things to think about, and then I just want to open it up to discussion. Is the power of your words really, really, really matter? The power and the tone and the verbiage really and truly matters. And really, we never know what other people are going through. We have to always remember, right, that hurt people hurt people. That's sort of where it comes from. How can we make a positive impact with our words and our actions to make sure that people do feel seen and heard and cared about and validated? How can we be kinder with our words and our actions? We tell kids all the time, if you are with your parents at Costco and you see somebody struggling to get the groceries in the back of their, go help them. It makes you feel better and it makes the next person feel better, right? Kindness is such a healer. Practice it all the time. And again, I can't say it enough, but you have to model the behavior that you want to see, right? You raise up your level so that your kids and their friends and their communities are raising up theirs. Don't sink, right? We want to raise our level. Any questions? Anything we want to talk about in terms of combating the bullying with kindness? It's, I think, really about understanding where people are coming from, because the bullying is the tip of the iceberg. There's so much underneath it. And what we're trying to do at Kid in the Corner is make sure that youth first, because that's our priority, that youth understand this concept, that they understand that we have to come from a place of kindness and empathy first to ourselves, always to ourselves first, and then outwardly into the world. Kindness and empathy, first here, and then out there. Any questions? Any Does anybody wants to talk about?
Just a logistical question. You talked about your program. How much time is that you spend? And is it like all of the kids from one grade or one class at a time?
So I like to do it one class at a time, because I feel like the smaller the class size, the more intimate, the more that we get youth to open up. So it's usually one class period over 3 days. So when we did, I don't know what school we were in, but we did like all the 6th grades. And so we did, 1 at 10, 1 at 11, 1 at 12 on a Monday, and we went back the next Monday and the next Monday. We can go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we can do it anyway, anyway. In middle school and high school, kids are not participating. They're not raising their hand, they're not answering, they're waiting until the very end and then they form a line. So in those situations, we usually do it in a 1-hour presentation. So we go through the whole thing in an hour. Kids get workbooks, so that they can take home all of the hotlines and the resources and the self-care plans and all of those things, so that they have it sort of forever. They learn about 988, which is the suicide hotline, versus 911, right, which is the medical hotline. We all know what 911 is. We hope we never have to use it, but if we do, we know what it's for. Same thing with 988. It's about connecting the youth and the community that supports them to the incredible resources that we have here in Arizona, like Team Lifeline. I'll walk into a classroom and ask 7th graders, who knows what Team Lifeline is, and nobody raises their hands. And I'm like, turn over your badges, because it's right there. And it's an incredible resource right here in Arizona that's open every single day, 365 days a year, from 3 p.m. till 9 p.m. every night. And you do not have to be suicidal to text them. If you want to talk through something, if you don't want to tell anybody else, if you are struggling because you have a friend, that is struggling, you want to know how to help them, you can text them. It's anonymous. And they are there. They are highly trained and very well supervised to help our youth. We can start, they get calls 3rd grade, 4th grade. I mean, kids are struggling at a really young age. But bullies also need to know that these resources exist, right? They also need to know where the support is, and how to help themselves. And so it's really important that kids are educated on what they can do, right, before it becomes a crisis. And that's sort of where we come. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, one other question. I would imagine that you regularly find kids that may not be able to identify a safe and caring person. What are the next steps?
So we go around and ask to make sure that they have a safe and caring person on campus, first of all. And, we tell them it can be a teacher, it can be a teacher from last year, a duty aide, a crossing guard, doesn't matter. But if you happen to be in crisis, who are you going to? And if they can't think of anybody, then the social worker comes in and, introduces herself and talks to the students and make sure that they know that she is always a safe and caring person. So if they can't identify one, we identify one for them on campus. And then if they can't identify a safe and caring person outside, we make sure that they have the hotlines and the resources so that they can text a safe and caring person. And we really always tell them also that there's, a lot of times, especially in 4th grade, kids will say, my safe and caring person, that's my mom. Well, sometimes I'm the problem. So then what, right? So to make sure that they have other people in their lives, right? For me, it was always my mom's sister, my aunt, she was my person, but maybe it's a good family friend or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle or a hotline resource. And to think about these things before you're in crisis, right? Before something happens. Because when we're in crisis and we're drinking from the fire hoses, I can attest to it is not the time to try to find the resources. Any other questions?
We have a question from online.
Yeah.
How interactive is your program with the kids?
Extremely interactive, very interactive, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. 7th grade, not so much. We'll ask, they don't usually, I can sort of take the temperature, but 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, it's extremely interactive. Kids are raising their hands, they're telling stories, they're bubbling up, and that's what we want, right? We want the teachers to not have to do any of the work at all. They just sit and observe or join our circle. And they learn so much about the kids in their classroom and why certain kids are behaving in a certain way. And then kids will bubble up and say, yeah, I really struggle with that. We talk about what depression is. And I ask the kids, what does depression feel like? What does it look like? 4th grade, they know, they'll tell you. what does anxiety look like? They'll tell you, I feel anxiety when I have this, or, when I have my really sad or bad days, I just want to do this. And then they talk about, they're like, oh, wait, I do that too. I'll do that with you. And all of a sudden, you start to see the connections and you start to see the kindness and the camaraderie coming out and them accepting each other for being who they are, right? Because we always really try to go home that my self-care plan is my self-care plan, right? Like I have a friend when Zach died, she gave me this beautiful, gorgeous journal and she wrote this beautiful thing in it and she handed it to me and she was like, writing this every night and you'll feel so much better. That journal sat next to my bed, then it was on my desk, then it was in my car, it was in my, I get it back. So listen, this has stressed me out, like I don't want to write. And that's okay, right? It's okay. I'm not a writer, she's a writer. What works for me, and what I can say is what works for me is this, and that's what we try to teach the kids, right? When dad, like was saying to Zachary, go to the gym, go to the gym, go to the gym, it's great for Zachary to say, you know what, I'm so glad the gym works for you. Doesn't work for me, but this is what works for me. Have those conversations and trying to empower that. That's a long-winded question, answer a good question, yeah.
Do you have resources or training that go along with your program for the students that are for the school so that they can take what you have taught the students and then carry it on?
So you mean like to retrain the school to do it
Right, or
themselves?
have resources or like a way that what you spend, when you spend those 3 days with those students, that then is reinforced and carried on to the students?
Yeah,
At the
so,
school or parents?
yes. So as a matter of fact, we have a couple of the PB educators and one of the PB social workers helping us to create a toolkit that we can leave behind. Right now, what we leave behind are our workbooks. We have posters with the penny pledge on it, and we have posters with all the hotlines and resources on it. We also always offer parent education evenings to go along with it. And one of the pillars that came in the corner, so I had said educate and spread awareness is one. Promote contagious kindness is a huge pillar for us. We do lots of kindness activities throughout the year to give people the opportunity to experience those. But the third pillar is to connect the community to resources. So it's really important, we feel, that the caregivers, that the people that take care of youth in the community are connected to the resources that are here in Arizona. And so last year we started a coalition called Mental Health Matters Arizona. And that website is actually up now. And on that website, it's not sort of a work in progress, but on that website are all kinds of resources in Arizona explaining sort of what's a PHP, what's an IOP, what's a this, what's a super bill, how do I navigate insurance, all of it there. All of the hotlines, all of the behavioral health hospitals, Mind 24/7, things like that are all there with links to their websites and explanations of what's going on there. And last September during Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month, we held a free conference, we'll be doing it again this year, for the community that supports youth with all of the amazing resources there. We had 4 different tracks, one for mental health, substance use, LGBTQ, and eating disorders. We had the first round of breakouts for each one of those was how do we talk to our youth about these things? How do we bring up these conversations if we notice some of these behaviors may be going on? And then the second breakout on each one of those tracks was about the program, some of the programming that's available. Then we all came back together and we had a crisis panel discussion on all the different hotlines and crisis lines that we have here in Arizona so that parents and caregivers understood how to use them and when to use them. And we'll be doing that conference again at the end of September. It's a wonderful, wonderful place for, I wish that we had something like this when Zach was struggling, because again, I had no idea how to even get on the path, never mind navigate the path. So now we have so many entry points that we are, trying to make sure that the community at large understands and knows about.
Another online question. As a parent, what's the first step to address suspected minor bullying without worsening the issue or ruining a friendship?
So bullying, go a little further, they could go a little further, like who's being bullied? Is it their child is the bully or their child being bullied?
Can you answer the question both ways?
Yeah.
Of course. Sure, okay. So I feel like if their child is the bully, again, I would have an open conversation about what's going on. Like what's going on? Still not seem like you. know this is not your innermost, personality. How are you feeling? What are you dealing with? And start to open up those conversations. And it may not happen the first time, but I would say have more empathy, right? Have more kindness. Be more aware of what's happening in that child's life, what the difference in behaviors is, and really try to have those conversations. Model the behavior that you want to see, and talk about using kind words. If nothing bubbles up after that, then I would probably have a conversation and say, hey, you know what? I heard some things that are concerning and I want to understand them, right? Rather than coming and saying like, I heard you did this and that is not acceptable in this house. We don't do that. Listen to my tone, right? So, as opposed to saying like, I've heard some things that are, none of us are perfect, right? But what's going on? Like, why those behaviors? You never know what's going to come up. I'm telling you, hurt people, there's going to be something going on. If you're the person being bullied, set some boundaries, right? We tell kids all the time, like when it comes to social media, you're in charge of what you put in your mouth, right? They say, oh, my parents. I go, okay, but really? I mean, you're in charge of what you put in your mouth. I mean, if I could eat ice cream every day, it's my favorite food in the world, but I know I'd be sick, right? I have to feed myself healthy things. And so I have to let healthy people into my life. I have to feed myself healthy foods. Same thing with social media, set boundaries. If it's not making me happy, if it's not making me feel good, I don't have to lash out, I don't have to attack, but I can pivot. And so stand on your own 2 feet and make sure that you're not accepting unacceptable behavior. But if this person is a really good friend and you feel like they're lying, then I would I would encourage the child to have a conversation with the bully and say, what is going on? Like, why are you talking to me like this? Why are you treating me like this? It doesn't feel good. And try to let them talk it out between themselves. And if not, I would have parent mediated or maybe the teacher mediated or what is mediated. Yeah.
Just to say, wrap up one question. What is the best way to do, just to repeat it if you've already said it, for any of our parent groups or organizations that want to get in touch with you to talk about programming on their own campus? What's the best way to get a hold of kids?
So I have business cards back there. Welcome to take one. But if you go on our website, kidinthecorner.org, there's a school request form, and you can fill out that school request form, and then we will get programs scheduled in schools.
We'll include your information. We have like a meeting recap that goes out to all of our reps. We'll be sure to link to your information there as well.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Anything else? Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for letting me come and speak today. To come from a place of kindness and, instead of coming from that place of attacking the bully, I think we really have to sort of come, from underneath it. To really sort of understand what's happening. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned, we're gonna make sure we link to those resources.